श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। हरे कृष्ण। Do we have Bhagavad Gita? Actually, I can pull it up here also. I got it. I can pull it up here. Thank you. So, which verse are we supposed to start? 513. 513. So, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter entitled Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness, and verse number 13. Please repeat. Sarva-karmani manasa sannasyaste sukham vashi navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna karayan. सर्वकर्माणि मनसा सन्नस्यास्ते सुखं वशी नवद्वारे पुरे देहि नैव कुर्वन्न कारयन्। सर्वकर्माणि मनसा सन्न्यस्यास्ते सुखं वशी नवद्वारे पुरे देहि नैव कुर्वन्न कारयन्। Sarva means all, karmani activities, manasa by the mind, sannyasya means to give up, aste remains, sukham in happiness, vashi one who has controlled, vash mein karna to control, navadware in the place where there are 9 gates. Nava Dwar. Nava means 9, Dwar means gate. Pure means city. Dehi, the embodied soul. Deha means body. Dehi means in the body, one who lives in the body. Mataji, Hare Krishna. धन्यवाद. तुम्हाला नमस्कार करायला विसरलो आज. हरे कृष्ण. Hare Krishna. I forgot to offer obeisances to you. Hare Krishna. So Navadwar means the place of 9 gates and Pure means a city. So Navadware Pure means the city with 9 gates. Dehi means the embodied soul. Na, never. Eva, certainly. Kurvan, doing anything. Na, not. Karayan, causing to be done. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Abhay Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation. Lord Krishna is telling Arjun, when the embodied living being, Dehi, controls his nature, Vashi, controls his nature and mentally renounces all action, Manasa Sanyasya, to give up all attachment to actions mentally, then he remains aste, happily, sukham, where? Navadware Pure, in the city of 9 gates. Gopal, do you live in the city of 9 gates? We will see. We don't live in Cumming, we don't live in Atlanta. We'll all live in the city of 9 gates. Neither working nor causing work to be done. Na eva kurvan, na karayan. He doesn't do work, doesn't cause any work to be done, happily resides in a city of 9 gates. This human body, Vaishnavi, in anatomy, in Gray's Anatomy, it doesn't say it like that. But this human body is compared to a city. Because we all live in cities. This human body is compared to a city, Pure, with 9 gates. Don't tell this to your anatomy professor. They will be bewildered. But Bhagavad Gita and our Shastra describes this human body as a city where the soul lives, and this city with 9 gates. 2 eyes. Shreya, keep a count. 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, 1 mouth. How much? How many? 7. And then evacuating organs. Evacuating organs, where stool and urine is evacuated. How many gates, Gopal? 9 gates. So our human body is compared to a city with 9 gates. It's figurative. So we all live in Navadwara Pure. We all live in a city with 9 gates. And the soul, the Dehi, lives happily in this body if one gives up attachment in this world. Giving up attachment mentally, manasa, that is most difficult. We can say externally, I am renounced, I am not attached. But mentally, to give up attachment is very difficult. When I was small and I used to trouble, me and my brother used to trouble my mother, she would always threaten us. I will give up all of you and I will go to Kanyakumari and become a sannyasini. I am not attached to both of you. So only threats. But mentally, the mother is very attached. So Krishna says, in this world, we are all attached. And therefore, we are sad. That person lives happily in the city of 9 gates who gives up attachment to matter and becomes attached to the spirit. Because spirit is permanent, so the happiness in attachment to the spirit is permanent. Because the human body is temporary, attachment to the body will lead to pain and suffering. So Krishna says we have to look beyond the body and look at the Dehi, the person who is living inside the city of 9 gates. If the attachment is on the spiritual level, it will lead to happiness eternally. If the attachment is only limited to the city of 9 gates, then there will be misery because the city of 9 gates is bound to perish. 200 years ago, did the city of coming exist? Well, 600 years ago, even the country didn't exist. United States of America. So everything in this world is temporary. If our attachment is to temporary things, we will be disappointed. If the attachment is on the level of the spirit, then we will be eternally happy. Let us welcome my very, very dear friend, Parikshit Priya Prabhu, all the way from North Carolina, Hillsborough, North Carolina. 3 times let us chant Hari Bol to welcome Parikshit Priya Prabhu. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Sorry for being so disorganized and haphazard. I'm offering obeisances to Mataji, welcoming. All this should have been done in the beginning.
This was like a wonderful opportunity. In the middle of the week, I am able to hear Bhagavad Gita. What more I can expect from you?
Hare Krishna.
So nice. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for being here. And Amarendra Prabhu is going to give classes every day during the Thanksgiving break. I just shared the flyer on the WhatsApp group. So those of you who can come for 1, 2, all classes, please come. So Krishna is saying we have to give up attachment to matter and become attached to spirit. Krishna says, Man mana bhava mad bhakto. Always think of me, become my devotee. And we have to give up attachment to matter. Now, purport. Srila Prabhupada writes, the embodied soul lives in the city of 9 gates. Who is the embodied soul? That's our true identity. The activities of the body or the figurative city with 9 gates are conducted automatically by its particular modes of nature. The activities that we do are dictated and controlled by the modes of material nature that we associate with. For example, a car may run on normal unleaded fuel. An electric car will run on electric fuel, electric energy. Some luxury car will run on premium gas. So different cars run on different fuels. Similarly, different activities are conducted under different modes of material nature. There are 3 modes of material nature. What are they? Ignorance. Sattvagun, Rajagun, Tamagun. When we help others, when we are selfless, we are kind, we act with empathy, we are in the mode of goodness. When we want to get ahead in the race, we want to become famous, we want to become rich, we are in the mode of passion. When we want to cause pain to others, or we just don't care about others, or we are lazy, we procrastinate, we are in the mode of ignorance. So these are different activities and they are propelled by the fuel of the 3 modes of material nature. That's what Prabhupada is saying. The soul, although subjecting himself to the conditions of the body, can be beyond those conditions if he so desires. Which means the soul is like the driver in the car. The car is the body. And the fuel in the car are the modes of material nature. If the driver gets attached to the car and somebody rear ends the car, what do we say? Hey, why did you hit me? Actually, the car has been hit. But we identify so much with our car that, hey, why did you hit me? Why did you rear end me? Isn't it? That's because we are identifying ourselves with the car. Similarly, we identify ourselves with this body. I got a heart attack. My cholesterol is high. I have got cancer. Actually, the body has got cancer. The body has got high cholesterol, high blood pressure. The body has become 45 years old. The soul is, we are all same age. Because we are all na jayate mriyate va kadachin na hanyate hanyamane sharire. The dehi is ajo nityam shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. The soul is eternal, shashvat. But we identify with our material bodies, therefore, we give so many designations, therefore, we experience material pleasure and we experience inevitable material pain and suffering. Because we have forgotten that we are the soul. Imagine if we are given a particular role. We are given the role of the President of the United States of America. For how many years? Maximum? Now, if President Obama says, I am the president, he may be addressed as President Obama. Even today, respectfully, when a journalist is speaking to him, you say President Obama, because he was once the president. But if he enters the White House and says, this is mine, I want to sit in the Oval Office, will that be allowed? Aditi? No, not be allowed. Why? Because he was playing the role, he was in the role of the president of the United States for a particular period of time. It is occasional, it is naimittic. But what is he permanently in this material world? He is Barack Obama. The presidency was a task given to him for a particular period of time. Before that, he was a senator. Before that, he was a lawyer or something. Before that, he was a student. Before that, he was a child. You see how the designations keep changing, but the person is same. Similarly, today I am as Abhay Deshmukh. In my previous life, I might have been somebody else. I was somebody else. And in my next life, I may be somebody else. So the body keeps changing, the identity keeps changing, but the soul is the same. That is the meaning of Dehinosmin yatha dehe, Kaumaram, Yauvanam, Jara, Tatha Dehantara Praptis. Another body will be obtained. Dhiras Tatranam Huyati. An intelligent person does not get bewildered by these changes. That is the essential teaching of Krishna to Arjun. That you are fighting for a higher cause. You are fighting not for you, not for somebody else. You are fighting for dharma. So you fight. In the course of fighting for dharma, some people will be killed. And those people will be your guru, your grandfather, your cousins. But it is necessary in the greater scheme of things. Whereas our temporary identities, our relationships are transient. They are not permanent. But dharma is permanent. So fight for something that is permanent. Fight for something that is higher. Like they say, the institution is greater than the individual. The institution of the presidency of the United States is greater than any individual. So many presidents have come and gone. 46 presidents have come and gone. Or 45. So, like that. But the key here is, Prabhupada says, we can be above the body if we so desire. In this regard, I would like to tell you one story. Once a devotee joined ISKCON and he was in the LA temple in California. This is in the 1970s. And Prabhupada used to go from temple to temple. He was 3-4 days, he would stay in a temple, then go to the next temple. There were 108 temples all over the world. So Prabhupada visiting a temple would happen once in many years. And Prabhupada was only there for around 11 to 12 years as the Acharya of ISKCON. Srila Prabhupada established ISKCON in 1966, 1977, Prabhupada wound up his earthly pastimes. So Srila Prabhupada coming to your temple would be very rare. How many times Srila Prabhupada came to Atlanta temple? On Ponce de Leon only once. 1975, February. Only once. So it was a rare event for Prabhupada to come. So Prabhupada was in LA temple, which at that time was the international headquarters of ISKCON. And a new devotee had joined. He was very intelligent, he was very sincere. But he really wanted the association of Srila Prabhupada. Because see, these devotees joined not because they had love for Krishna, but they joined because they were convinced by Srila Prabhupada's purity. And personal association with the Guru, with Srila Prabhupada, was very rare. So Prabhupada was there for 3 or 4 days in this temple. And he really wanted to get personal association of Prabhupada. He really wanted to get association of Prabhupada. But he could not. All the 3-4 days that Prabhupada was there, he could not. He could not even come close to Prabhupada. And he was feeling very disappointed. It is natural for every disciple to feel that I want to have some personal association of my Guru Maharaj, so I can ask questions, I can learn, I can receive some instructions, I can get some personal memories, develop some personal memories with my Gurudev. But he could not get close to Prabhupada also. And then Prabhupada was leaving. Prabhupada was getting into his car. All the devotees were surrounding Prabhupada doing kirtan. He was one of them. And he was a new devotee. He was not even initiated yet. And he was somewhere in the background. But he had this desire that I want to meet Prabhupada. I want to speak to Prabhupada. I want to ask questions to my Guru, Prabhupada. And he was doing kirtan, jumping up and down. And somehow it so happened his desire was so strong that he ended up right in front of Prabhupada. So Prabhupada's one leg is in the car, one leg is on the road. Prabhupada is getting inside the car to leave. And he's right in front of Prabhupada. So he says, this is my opportunity. Prabhupada is leaving. Perhaps I will never get to meet Prabhupada again. He falls at Prabhupada's feet, offers obeisances, and Prabhupada stops. He offers obeisances, gets up, and now he's face to face with Prabhupada. He's right in front of Prabhupada. And Prabhupada looks at him as if, do you have any question? Like that. So he blurts out, Prabhupada, how can I become successful in Krishna consciousness? He's a new devotee, he's just joined. And he's asked such an important question. How many of you think it's an important question? Prabhupada, how can I become successful in Krishna consciousness? And devotees are doing kirtan, and the driver is ready to start the car, and Prabhupada has to catch the flight. So much commotion. And Prabhupada looks straight into his eyes and says, desire. And Prabhupada's second foot enters into the car, the door slams shut, and Prabhupada leaves. And this devotee then never physically saw Prabhupada. He was initiated through a letter. His beads were sent by Prabhupada like that. Like many devotees were initiated in the later years. This was his only interaction with Prabhupada. What did Prabhupada say? What was the question? This new devotee did not understand what Prabhupada meant initially. But as he reflected on that answer, every time he would think about it, he would get newer and newer understanding of how deep that answer was. In one word, Srila Prabhupada had given the key to spiritual success. What is the key? That we should desire to be spiritually successful. Yes. Greed, the desire to get it. We desire so many things. We desire a good MCAT score, right? We desire a good residency. We desire so many things. We desire Innovation Academy. We all have our little things, small goals. We desire to come back to Atlanta with a job. All of us have our little ambitions. We desire medical school. Similarly, we should desire success in Krishna consciousness. If we are associating with bad people, are we desiring success in Krishna consciousness? If we are doing drugs, are we desiring success in Krishna consciousness? If we are eating meat, are we desiring success in Krishna consciousness? Prabhupada said, desire. Sincerely you desire. If you desire it, you will get it. And this devotee thought, yes, this is true. Our desires have power. I desired to meet Prabhupada face to face. I desired to ask him question face to face. It seemed impossible, but it became possible. So what Prabhupada says works. I must sincerely desire. That is the key. So today, as I promised last time, I will tell all of you a story about spiritual success, which is very dear to my heart. This personality has inspired me in my Krishna consciousness whenever I feel low, whenever I feel weak, whenever I feel defeated. This personality has given me hope, strength, and inspiration. Would you like to hear about this person?
Yes.
This is my Thanksgiving offering to all of you because I have deep appreciation and affection for all of you. All of you are so sincere. You have so many options on this Wednesday evening, but you have taken the trouble to be here. I am a very poor man. I am spiritually very weak, but whatever I have, the most precious gifts that I carry, that I have received, I want to share with all of you. So please listen with undivided attention. The name of this great personality is His Holiness Srila Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj. You see, in 1619, if I remember correctly, the first slaves from Africa were brought to the North American continent. There was a businessman from Holland, explorer from Holland, who came to West Indies and ran out of food. He had some slaves from Africa with him, and he exchanged a dozen slaves for some food so he could continue and come to America and continue with his exploration. And then that trend became very popular. And all these explorers, they would bring slaves from Africa and sell them for money, sell them for food, or use them. The most popular cash crop in North America at that time was tobacco. There were huge tobacco plantations, and you needed laborers to work on the fields. And slaves from Africa were imported by the hundreds. It is said that 5% of them died because of diseases, because they were crammed up so close together on the boats when they were shipped from Africa. 15% died of starvation and malnutrition because the food supplies on the ships were limited and it was consumed mainly by the captains and the white people, the owners. And very little was given to the slaves. And they would die from dehydration, seasickness, vomiting, malnutrition. 35% would die when they came on the American soil because of the harsh working conditions here. These slaves were not allowed to have a name of their own. They were called by the name of their owner, their master. Slave names. They were branded with the name of their master. For the rest of their life, they belong to their master. And they were made to work day and night. They were treated worse than animals. And then in the 19th century, slavery was officially banned. The American Civil War happened. Hundreds of thousands of Americans were killed, the North versus the South. North wanted to do away with the slavery. South wanted to keep slavery going. And there was a war, civil war. On paper, slavery was abolished, but discrimination remained. The black people, African Americans, were not allowed to go to the same schools as the whites. They were not allowed to ride on the bus, and even if they rode on the bus, they had to stay in the back. They could not use the same water fountains as the white people. There was a lot of discrimination. They couldn't go to the same schools as white kids. There were separate schools in the ghettos where the black kids went, and they lived and died in the ghettos without getting a real chance at life. They lived in abject poverty and they died in abject poverty. The motto was keep them suppressed. In the 1950s and 1960s, Dr. Martin Luther King and others, they fought for civil rights. They fought for equal rights for the black people. But before Dr. Martin Luther King's civil rights movement became popular, in the year 1949, in the ghettos of Cleveland, Ohio, a boy was born to a single mother. His name was John. His mother called him Johnny Boy. He never saw his father. The father never took care of John's mother. He left her and she brought up Johnny Boy, John Favors. His last name was Favors, all by herself in the ghettos. He went to the ghetto school. He was very poor, child of a single mom who was struggling to make ends meet. And growing up, he only had two t-shirts. Every time he would have two t-shirts. And one day, a neighborhood friend came whose t-shirt was torn in several places. And Johnny Boy's mother gave the other t-shirt away to that friend to teach John the value of compassion, charity, and care for others. Poverty, being a child of a single mother, was not the main problem for John. His main problem was stammering. He was born with a speech disorder. He stammered. And it was a great effort even to get one sentence out. He would do like this, try to get the words out, and everyone would laugh in school. So he became the butt of all nasty jokes and bullying. His mother took shelter of Jesus Christ and put him for Bible study. That we are so unfortunate, maybe God will have some mercy. And to everyone's surprise, whenever John Favors would read the Holy Bible, his stammering would stop. So he became an evangelical preacher as a child in the ghettos. And they had their own local radio station, and he would preach on radio as a child. And he became like a miracle child because he stammered, but every time he preached, his stammering would go away. So his mother said, Johnny Boy, you are born to preach the gospel. He was always wanting to help others. He worked hard in his school, but the schools were failing schools in the ghetto. But still, he tried his best. And he used to tutor kids who were a couple of years younger to him because he had the spirit of helping others. And they would give him some money, and that would help his mother out. So, even as a school kid, he used to tutor. His school principal told him one summer that there is a camp of tutors in Cleveland. Why don't you go attend? Now, this camp was for very successful white schools. And John was the only black kid there. but he went to attend the tutor's some seminar. There he met a girl. She was a Jewish girl from a very wealthy family who went to a private school in a very posh area of Cleveland. And she really appreciated John's honesty, sincerity, his academic brilliance. And she told her parents that this boy I met, he's also a tutor. He was probably in middle school that time. He must get a chance at life. In that ghetto school, he will never get a chance to really succeed. It's a failing school. Mommy and daddy, can you talk to my principal and can we sponsor his education? I want him to come to my school. So the parents said, okay. And they spoke to the principal, and the principal said, all right, we will give him full scholarship in our private school, and he can attend the whole high school and graduate from here. So John Favors, who was from a very poor ghetto, he attended one of the most expensive private schools in Cleveland. He was the only black kid in the school. This is late 1950s, early 1960s. And he did very well in the school. He graduated at a time where politically the whole country was going through a turmoil. Although social segregation was officially banned and social integration was the law, but still in some southern states like Alabama, it was far from the reality. The reality was nobody wanted black kids in the universities. So one black kid got admitted to University of Alabama, and the governor of Alabama said, we will not take him. We will not allow him to attend the school. The school is only for white kids. And President JFK said, I will send the National Guard and we will see how you don't allow this black kid. And we will cancel all grants to your university. We'll penalize you. And the governor said, you can do what you want. It was national news for this one black kid to attend a university in Alabama. And at the last minute, the governor withdrew, said, okay, he can attend, no problem. But the National Guards were deployed. Then the government made a law that if the universities don't take a certain number of black kids, they will not get any government grants. And if they took certain black kids based on merit, they would get grants from the government and tax breaks also. So all the major universities wanted some black kids, but all these black kids came from failing schools. So education-wise, they were substandard when they were given a chance in the university. So that was a big headache for the universities. We take these black kids, but they don't know anything because they are not trained properly in high school. John Favors graduated from the private high school and he applied to the Ivy League universities. He didn't apply to all the Ivies, but whichever Ivy League universities he applied, he got in. He got into Harvard, he got into Yale, he got into Princeton, he got into Columbia. And his principal of that private school told him, you choose where you want to go because you are so well trained coming from this private school that any university will want you. So you choose. Whoever gives you the best scholarship, you go there. So he chose Princeton because Princeton University made him an offer that he could not refuse. They offered him full tuition. They offered him a stipend while he was 4 years in Princeton. They offered him free books, free accommodation on campus, free food, and return tickets from New Jersey to Cleveland, Ohio, twice a year. so he could go meet his family. It doesn't get better than that. You get a stipend for being in college and Princeton University. So he chose Princeton, even though he got into Harvard and Yale and other universities. And at that time in Princeton, he was one of the only black kids. And he said, John said, that somehow in Princeton, most of the white kids were from the South, from very rich families, and they hated black kids. So many times he was bullied, he was slapped, he was punched and shoved in Princeton. But somehow he survived. He became leader of the student council. He became leader of the local um, black activist group in New Jersey. And he was really a straight A student, very good student. So he graduated very well with good grades and he got a job with the United Nations because he majored in um, international law or something like that, political science. I forgot the exact thing. And in the yearbook of Princeton University, every student is asked, what would you like to become? And John Favors wrote, international humanitarian activist. Those are the words that he signed above his name. He wanted to be a international humanitarian activist. But he was very much interested in spirituality. Because remember, when he was a child, he used to stammer. But every time he spoke about the Bible, his stammering would go away. Then he went through intense speech therapy and he overcame his stammering and was able to speak quite fluently. While he was doing his job was in Brooklyn, New York. And he became very interested in spirituality. So he started reading books on spirituality from India. And one very famous guru from India who would visit the United States, a very good singer, a very powerful mystic guru, he had some siddhis also. He took a liking for John Favors and gave him initiation. He became a disciple. John Favors became a disciple. And he would ask such sincere, detailed, deep spiritual questions that his guru could not answer them. His guru couldn't answer. Finally, one day the guru told him that your questions are so deep. I am a guru, but I am very superficial. I don't have answer to your deep questions. The only person who can really satisfy you and answer all your questions is His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the leader of the Hare Krishna movement. You should go to him. So he said, are you talking about those people who wear bed sheets and they put paint on their foreheads and they have wooden beads around their neck and they are jumping and singing loudly in the streets of Brooklyn? Because there was an ISKCON temple in Brooklyn. The guru said, yes, but don't judge them by the externals. They are following genuine spirituality. You should try to understand their philosophy. So he went to the temple and got some books, Prabhupada's books, and started reading them. And he was so inspired by reading Bhagavad Gītā, by reading Prabhupada's books, that he decided to join the temple, start chanting, and move into the temple. So he kept his job with the United Nations, but he was living in the temple, chanting 16 rounds, attending the morning program, attending the Bhagavatam class, and then he would go do his 9 to 5 job and come back in the evening to the temple also. But the problem was he was the only black devotee in the Brooklyn temple. Those days, this early 1970s, those days everyone was a white devotee, practically, in ISKCON. There were no Indians because Prabhupada started preaching in Manhattan and then San Francisco. So 95% devotees were all white. Remaining were Indians and African Americans. So he was the only black devotee in the temple. And all the devotees were college dropouts. Some were high school dropouts because they had joined Prabhupada. And here is the only black brahmachari who is Ivy League educated and works for United Nations. So the devotees didn't know how to deal with this guy. He's a Princeton graduate. He's got a job. Every morning he wears suit and dress and goes to office. And in the morning he's in dhoti and kurta with tilak. We don't know how to deal with him. So there was some ill treatment to John Favors. And then Prabhupada came to Brooklyn. And Prabhupada gave a Bhagavatam class. And after the Bhagavatam, that's the first time John Favors was seeing Prabhupada. He loved Prabhupada. He loved the philosophy. He loved the books. He loved to chant. He loved to dance. But he didn't like the devotees because they behaved very weird with him. Prabhupada asked after the class, "Are there any questions?" John Favors' hand shot up. And Prabhupada said, "Yes." And he said, "Prabhupada, there is prejudice in your movement." Prabhupada said, "Yes." Prabhupada didn't understand the question. He said, "Prabhupada, we are preaching that everyone is equal, Pandita Samadarshana, but there is prejudice in your movement." Prabhupada said, "If you are affected by the prejudice, then you are also nonsense." This is the first interaction John Favors had with Prabhupada. What Prabhupada was saying is, there may be prejudice in ISKCON because they are considering you a black man and they are white. But if you get affected by that discrimination, if you get affected by that prejudice, and you decide, "I'm going to leave Krishna consciousness," then you are also nonsense. How are you better than them? They are affected by prejudice, and you are getting affected by that prejudice, you are also nonsense. They are nonsense, and you are also nonsense, Prabhupada said. And John Favors loved that answer. He said, "This man is so deep. In my first interaction, in my first meeting, he showed me my place." That my place is at his feet as his servant. And he surrendered to Prabhupada. He got initiated. And Prabhupada gave John Favors the name Ghanasham Das. And he instantly fell in love with his name. Because Ghanasham is a name of Krishna who is dark in color. The blackish boy, Ghanasham. He loved his name. And he asked Prabhupada, "Prabhupada, how can I serve you?" Prabhupada said, "You are educated. You are Ivy League University educated. I want you to go to the universities and colleges of North America and preach to them the importance of my books. Go to every university in the US where they have a department of religious studies and tell them that they should have a course on Bhagavad Gita. And they can use my Bhagavad Gita as the standard textbook. Stock their libraries with Bhagavad Gita as it is. Let the students of religion in these American universities study Bhagavad Gita. Let them understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Go and preach to the professors." So Bhakti Tirth Maharaj got a van. He filled it with Prabhupada's books and with one other devotee called Mahabudhi Prabhu. The two of them, they drove that van across the length and breadth of the United States of America, going to every state, every major university, every college where there was a department of Eastern religion or religious study, which all major universities have, or a Sanskrit department, anyway where Bhagavad Gita could be included. And they would meet all these professors of religious studies and convince them that they should have a class on Bhagavad Gita. And here is the authentic Bhagavad Gita with the Sanskrit shlokas, with transliteration, word to word meaning, simple translation in English, and elaborate purports to explain. Please take this Bhagavad Gita and teach it in your universities. And when they saw that he was a Princeton graduate and he held a responsible job with the United Nations, they wanted to listen to him. And he would preach in such a scholarly way because he had read the Gita himself, that they would buy the Bhagavad Gita, they would stock it in their library so students could read it. Because what is the use of the students don't have access to the Bhagavad Gita? And he became the most prominent distributor of Prabhupada's books to the elite, to the intelligentsia in America. Then he got an inspiration that why just Bhagavad Gita? Why shouldn't these universities that have Eastern religion studies teach Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita? At that time, Prabhupada was only up to fourth canto, and Chaitanya Charitamrita was not even started. But he started going to the universities in practically all the states of mainland USA, talking to the professors and telling them, my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, is a great Vedic scholar in a divine disciplic succession coming directly from the Supreme Lord Krishna. And he is doing the phenomenal work of translating the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, 18,000 shlokas, into English with an elaborate commentary called Bhaktivedanta Purports. We have done till the fourth canto, but all the 12 cantos will come. And soon Chaitanya Charitamrita will come, which is a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. Why don't you give a standing order for Prabhupada's books? I'll give you the 4 cantos now. I will give you the Bhagavad Gita now. And as each volume is printed, you will be shipped your copy until you have all the volumes. So Bhakti Tirth Maharaj, Ghanshyam Prabhu, he convinced the universities to give a standing order, which was a revolutionary concept in the 1970s. That they had so much faith in Prabhupada that they were giving a future order for whatever books Prabhupada would publish in the future. Our library will have them. Our professors will have them. All because of the expert preaching of Ghanshyam Prabhu. And Prabhupada gave a name to Ghanshyam Prabhu's van, the Bhakti Vedanta Traveling Sankirtan Party. Bhaktivedanta Library Traveling Sankirtan Party, like that. And he was so expert. Once a senior devotee told Ghanshyam Prabhu, what are you doing in San Antonio, Texas? Yeah, there are some little universities here. Go to the Northeast, go back to the Northeast. All the 8 IVs are there. All the major universities are there. So many students are there. Go and give your books in the universities there. So he drove to Northeast, went to New York, and it was a federal holiday when they went there. The university was closed. So Mahabodhi Prabhu said, let's go, let's come back tomorrow. Let's go back, we'll come back tomorrow. And they used to stay in the van. They would go to some public place, give some few coins and use the facilities there, shower, and then come back to the van. And so the van was their home. Bhakti Tirth Maharaj, his schedule was like this. He would wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and he would chant 40 rounds every morning in one go. Then Mahabodhi Prabhu would wake up and then they would do Mangal Aarti together. And they would do the Bhagavatam class and the morning program. All before the university opened, which used to be at around 8 o'clock in the morning. And when the first students would show up at the university, Ghanshyam Prabhu and Mahabodhi Prabhu were ready with their books. They would meet all the students, and are you interested in spirituality? Here is a nice book, Bhagavad Gita. Please take it. Please read it. We are here to help you. If you have any questions, we can teach you this Bhagavad Gita. It will change your life in a very positive way. And they would sell the Bhagavad Gita books to the students. And then later in the day, they would go make an appointment with the professors and convince them to give standing orders for Srila Prabhupada's books. Can you imagine how happy Srila Prabhupada will feel when he comes to know that there is a standing order with the BBT from these universities, from Emory University, from Harvard University, from Princeton University? How happy Srila Prabhupada would feel. So in this way, they went to this particular, and then he would stay there till the college closed, university closed. And then he would come back, and then they would have the evening Gaur Aarti and everything. And then the first meal of the day, which consisted of yogurt and fruits and nothing else. Dry fruits, fruits, and yogurt. That was the one meal that that Ghanshyam Prabhu would have every evening. And then he would take rest and again wake up at 2 o'clock to start his routine. Mahabodhi Prabhu said, once I fell asleep, and then for some reason I woke up and I saw Ghanshyam Prabhu with a flashlight reading Prabhupada's books at night. Before going to bed, it was his rule for 1 hour, he would read Prabhupada's books. Ghanshyam Prabhu said, if I don't know what is there in Prabhupada's books, if my life is not based on Prabhupada's teachings as mentioned in his books, what can I tell others? How can I tell others to buy Prabhupada's books if I am not reading them? So 1 hour every night he would read Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, all the books of Srila Prabhupada with a flashlight so that Mahabodhi Prabhu will not get disturbed, the light. So they reached one particular university that day when it was a public holiday. The university was closed. Mahabodhi Prabhu said, let's go back, we'll come tomorrow. Ghanshyam Prabhu said, no, we have come here, so there must be some purpose. And I see a couple of cars in the parking lot. Mahabodhi Prabhu said, that must be security guards. There's nobody, this university is closed, let's just go, we'll come back another day. He said, well, at least let me go use the restroom. I'll come. Okay, come back quickly. Mahabodhi Prabhu is sitting on the wheel. Ghanshyam Prabhu with his backpack goes in the university, which is closed, but there are a couple of cars. He says, I'll come back soon. 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours go by, and Ghanshyam Prabhu has still not come. And finally, after 2 long hours, Ghanshyam Prabhu walks out of the university, beaming, big smile on his face. Very nonchalantly, he opens the door, jumps into the van, and Mahabodhi Prabhu said, you had gone for 15 minutes. It's been 2 hours. Where were you? What were you doing? And Ghanshyam Prabhu said, I went to the toilet, and standing next to me in the toilet was a professor. I struck up a conversation with him, and it turned out he was a professor of Eastern religion. He invited me to his office. I pulled out Bhagavad Gita and showed him what a great book it was. And he told me, I have been teaching Zen, Buddhism, this, that, but I never knew about Bhagavad Gita. This is really cool stuff. Can you tell me the philosophy in a nutshell? And Ghanshyam Prabhu told him the essence of Bhagavad Gita in 5 minutes. And he loved it. He said, I will take this. Ghanshyam Prabhu said, I told him, what is the use of taking the Bhagavad Gita if you don't teach it? Why don't you start a course on Bhagavad Gita for your students in your university? He said, of course I will do it. Well, then the students will also need their copies of Bhagavad Gita. Why don't we stock the library with Bhagavad Gitas? He said, but it's a holiday. The library is closed. But do you know the librarian? Actually, I do. Let me call him. So he dialed the librarian's home. His wife answered. And she said, what are you doing in the university? He said, well, I had to correct some papers It was a holiday. I thought, let me just come and it's peaceful. Nobody's there. I'll sit and correct papers. So I came. I met a very nice scholar of Eastern studies here. And I was wondering if I could talk to your husband, the librarian. She said, well, he also had some pending work in the library. So he's also in the library only. He hung up and Ghanshyam Prabhu and the professor, they walked over to the library where they met the librarian. And Ghanshyam Prabhu made a presentation to the librarian, showed him, do you have any book like this in your library? With all the original Sanskrit, each word of Sanskrit translated into English, translation, purports, so wonderful. There is an index of all the verses, index of all the references from Padma Puran, Srimad Bhagavatam, Shvetashvatara Upanishad, Katha Upanishad. Such a brilliant book this is, so authoritative. He said, this is a textbook we should have in our library. Yes, why don't you buy a few copies? This professor is going to start a course on Bhagavad Gita. All right, I will buy. Would you like a copy for yourself? Yes, I will also take a copy. I like to read. That's why I'm a librarian. And then Ghanshyam Prabhu told him about the standing order program. He said, after Bhagavad Gita, the next step is Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's coming. There are 12 cantos. We have already done 4 cantos. Why don't you give a standing order? He said, yes, we'll do that. And then there is a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam called Chaitanya Charitamrita. Why don't you give a standing order for that? When the books come out hot from the press, your university will be the first university will ship them to. All right, how much is it? And they wrote a check and gave Ghanshyam Prabhu standing order for all of Prabhupada's books. Mahabodhi Prabhu said, this is what Ghanshyam Prabhu could do in an American university when it was closed. Imagine what he was doing every day. His program was highly successful. It was so successful that Prabhupada said, now go to Europe and do the same. So they went to Europe and Ghanshyam Prabhu had the same success in Europe, getting all the universities to give standing order for Prabhupada's books. And then Ghanshyam Prabhu embarked on the most difficult part, to distribute Prabhupada's books behind the Iron Curtain. This is 1970s, when the Cold War was at a peak. Religion was banned in USSR. They said 3 things we have to be careful. 3 American things we have to be careful. 1, rock and roll music. 2, Coca-Cola. 3, the Hare Krishnas. I'm telling you the truth. These were the instructions given to KGB. Beware of 3 things. Rock and roll music, it will contaminate our Russians. Coca-Cola and the Hare Krishnas. Ghanshyam Prabhu, Russian population is all white. This is 1970s. There are no black people there in Russia. Ghanshyam Prabhu is the only black guy. He cannot even hide. He stands out. He's not allowed to take any books there. Ghanshyam Prabhu carries one personal pocket edition, Macmillan pocket edition of Bhagavad Gita with him. Sneaks it. He's in Europe. He hitchhikes on foot over the mountains into East Europe, into USSR, with one Bhagavad Gita in his pocket. He goes there and hand copies the essential verses of Bhagavad Gita in notebooks and starts distributing them to the Russians, while maintaining his sadhana of 40 rounds every day, 1 meal every day, and all the 1 hour reading of Prabhupada's books every day. And he has great success. And then every now and then on foot he travels into Europe, and somehow in his bag he smuggles Bhagavad Gitas on foot into USSR and starts distributing Bhagavad Gitas there. And then the local devotees Xerox them, photocopy them, and there is soon mass distribution of Bhagavad Gitas, all undercover. And then Bhakti Tirth Maharaj starts having home programs in Russia, programs like this, but secret, because Hare Krishna is banned in USSR behind the Iron Curtain. Many times KGB came, and Bhakti Tirth Maharaj had to run out the back door to save his life. One day, he went to a university to preach. He was so bold. He was risking his life. And two KGB men came there and they started chasing him. And in the corridors of that university, here is this black sadhu running with two KGB men in suits holding their handgun, chasing behind him. And he's running from one floor to the next, one floor to the next, and people are watching. Did you see a black guy? Yeah, he went this. He went and he went and he went. And the KGB were closing in on him. Out of desperation, he prayed to Srila Prabhupada, and Bhakti Tirth Maharaj opened the door and slammed it shut behind him and found himself in the office of a Russian professor. The professor was working on his desk and he looks up and sees a black guy in his office slamming the door shut. Behind him on the wall is a big clock. And Bhakti Tirth Maharaj thinks quickly. He looks at the clock and says, "It's 12:25. So, well, I have an appointment with you, sir." He said, "I don't have any appointment with you." "Oh, your secretary didn't tell you?" "I had phoned many days ago and she told me I could come today at 12:25 p.m. So here I am." "Well, my secretary didn't tell me anything. But anyway, now that you're here, come sit." Bhakti Maharaj sits down on the chair, opens his backpack, pulls out a Bhagavad Gita, and starts making a presentation to this professor and says, "Russia and India have a long standing relationship. We are friends. We share the culture. Russian language is so similar to Sanskrit. Here is Bhagavad Gita, the essential spiritual text of India. Why don't you start a course on Bhagavad Gita?" And makes a whole presentation and sells a Bhagavad Gita to this Russian professor, sells him extra copies for the library and the students when the KGB is chasing him. This was Bhakti Tirth Maharaj, Ghanshyam Prabhu. And every once in a while, he would write letters to Srila Prabhupada, documenting his Sankirtan adventures behind the Iron Curtain. And it was Prabhupada's favorite. Prabhupada would ask Tamal Krishna Goswami, "Have we received any fresh letter and new letter from Ghanshyam Prabhu from Russia?" Prabhupada loved reading his adventures. And for many years, Ghanshyam Prabhu continued distributing books and preaching secretly, undercover, in Russia. By this time, Srila Prabhupada's health deteriorated. Now, this is the late summer of 1977. Srila Prabhupada comes for the last time to the United Kingdom, Bhaktivedanta Manor. Prabhupada has lost so much weight. Many of you might have seen the photos and videos of Prabhupada's last days. Prabhupada is reduced to skin and bones. Srila Prabhupada cannot give classes anymore. Srila Prabhupada cannot walk anymore. He has to be carried everywhere. Ghanshyam Prabhu is distributing books in Russia, writing letters to Srila Prabhupada every now and then. And he comes to know that Prabhupada is in London. Ghanshyam Prabhu gets into a car and drives all the way from USSR through East Europe into UK to meet Prabhupada because he hears that Prabhupada's health is not good. He comes to Bhaktivedanta Manor and a message is given to Prabhupada that the Ghanshyam Prabhu has come to meet you. And Prabhupada is ecstatic. He tells Tamal Krishna Maharaj, "Please bring him. I want to see him. And after so many years, Ghanshyam Prabhu is again face to face with Srila Prabhupada. Because all these years, Ghanshyam Prabhu was traveling in God-forsaken places. He never got to meet Prabhupada. Ghanshyam Prabhu walks into the room where Prabhupada is. Prabhupada tells his servant to prop him up in the bed. Prabhupada is propped up in the bed. And Prabhupada looks over at Ghanshyam Prabhu. And Prabhupada beckons him, come, come. Ghanshyam Prabhu goes, not knowing what to do. Prabhupada puts his hand behind his neck and pulls him towards him and tightly embraces him. For a long time, Srila Prabhupada embraced Ghanshyam Prabhu. And Ghanshyam Prabhu could feel Prabhupada's tears drop on him. Prabhupada was rubbing his hair like this, while his tears of love were falling on Ghanshyam Prabhu. Prabhupada looked at him and said, Ghanshyam Prabhu, I am so proud of you. You are risking your life to serve me. I am so proud of you. And I am so grateful to you. Then Prabhupada told Ghanshyam Prabhu that Ghanshyam Prabhu, your life is successful. This is the parampara system. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to preach all over the world. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ordered his son to spread books of Krishna consciousness all over the world. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's son, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, pushed me to travel and preach. And I am pushing you. And I am so proud of you for what you are doing. You have understood the spirit of the Guru Parampara. Your life is successful. And then Prabhupada put his hand on Ghanshyam Prabhu's head and said, I bless you. Ghanshyam Prabhu, you will see Krishna face to face in this life. Prabhupada blessed him. You will see Krishna face to face in this very lifetime. And all the devotees heard this. Prabhupada had not done this to any disciple. Ghanshyam Prabhu left the room and everybody was talking about this. Prabhupada was so happy to see that Ghanshyam Prabhu. Prabhupada said, you have understood the spirit of the parampara. Prabhupada said, you will see Krishna face to face in this lifetime. Prabhupada was crying with love. And everybody was glorifying Ghanshyam Prabhu. Tamal Krishna Maharaj was so moved to see this exchange between Prabhupada and Ghanshyam Prabhu that he got an idea. He said, whenever Ghanshyam Prabhu writes his letters from Russia, I read them out to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada hears them with so much relish. Now Ghanshyam Prabhu himself is here. Why don't I ask him to read one of his letters to Srila Prabhupada directly? So next day, Tamal Krishna Maharaj told Ghanshyam Prabhu that you come, you sit with Prabhupada and read your letter out to Prabhupada. He will feel so much happiness reading your letters directly from you. Because Prabhupada loves your letters. Many times when I read your letters to Prabhupada, Prabhupada says, the highlight of today was Ghanshyam Prabhu's letter. Because he wrote such adventures, like we told you, of his book distribution behind the Iron Curtain. So the next day, Bhakti Tirth Maharaj is sitting with his own letter, sitting in Prabhupada's room, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, okay, start reading. And he takes the letter and starts reading his adventures to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada completely ignores Ghanshyam Prabhu. Prabhupada looks completely disinterested. Prabhupada looks completely distracted. As Ghanshyam Prabhu is reading his letter, Prabhupada is talking to other devotees. So what happened with that? Call that other devotee. Ask him this. Ghanshyam Prabhu is reading the letter. And Prabhupada is ignoring him. Otherwise, whenever those letters were read, Prabhupada would hear with rapt attention, absorbing every word from the letter. And now Prabhupada is disinterested, distracted, ignoring Ghanshyam Prabhu completely. Ghanshyam Prabhu felt so uncomfortable. He felt like he was a nuisance to Srila Prabhupada. He felt that his presence was unwanted in the room. After a few minutes, Ghanshyam Prabhu stopped reading and he looked at Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, shall I leave? Prabhupada looked down at Ghanshyam Prabhu and said, Krishna is the doer. Ghanshyam Prabhu bowed down to Srila Prabhupada. Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, Ghanshyam Prabhu, I think you can leave now. Because he saw Prabhupada was furious. So Ghanshyam Prabhu got up and left. And later on, Ghanshyam Prabhu was telling, the whole world knows what happened the previous day, where Prabhupada called for me, embraced me, shed tears of love, rubbed my head, blessed me. You will see Krishna face to face in this life. Told me you have understood the spirit of the parampara. Told me I am very proud of you. So many devotees saw it. So many more devotees heard about it. But nobody knows what happened the next day when it was just Prabhupada, me, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And Ghanshyam Prabhu said, what happened on the second day was more significant, more intimate than what happened on the first day. Would you like to know why? On the first day, Ghanshyam Prabhu got the blessings and mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Okay, nobody has joined yet. Okay. So, let me just explain what was special about this meeting. Ghanshyam Prabhu said, on the first day, Srila Prabhupada encouraged me, blessed me. But the biggest threat to a devotee's devotion is success, which leads to pride. On the second day, by chastising me, by ignoring me, by appearing totally disinterested and distracted, and telling me Krishna is the doer, Prabhupada showed his love and care and concern for me. And to me, that is more intimate. That instruction of Prabhupada, beware of pride. You are not the doer. Krishna is the doer. You are not the source of success. Krishna is the source of success. Was more important than glorifying me in front of everyone. Chastising me in private was more intimate than glorifying me in public. This was the realization of Ghanshyam Prabhu. And this was the last time Ghanshyam Prabhu ever met Srila Prabhupada. The last instructions that he got was, Krishna is the doer. And then Ghanshyam Prabhu went, continued with his service. Srila Prabhupada came back to Bombay, took a train from Mumbai Central Station to Mathura, went in his ambassador to Vrindavan, stayed there for a few months, and went back to Golok Vrindavan from there. What happened to Ghanshyam Prabhu after Srila Prabhupada left this world? Krishna willing, we will see next Friday. We'll stop here because it is 9 o'clock and we'll have prasad and I have a meeting also. So we'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Bhagavad Gita ki, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So, dear devotees, I will end this call, and Vaishnava Sangha devotees, please join again in few seconds. I'll end the call.